So if you picture like a modern network defender at work, the cinematic version is usually, someone intensely staring at a giant wall of monitors.
Yeah, like hacking in the movies.
Yeah, exactly. Acting as this like human shield against the chaos of the internet.
Mm-hmm.
But the operational reality is that our human shield is currently standing in front of a massive high-pressure fire hose.
And they're armed with, like, a teacup.
Exactly, a tiny teacup, which is why we're so glad you're joining us for this deep dive today.
Yeah, because the sheer velocity and the volume of modern cyber threats, they've just entirely outpaced human cognitive limits.
Without a doubt.
I mean, we are asking human analysts to fight machine speed, automated attacks using, like, manual triage processes. The math on that simply does not work out in the defender's favor.
Which really brings us to the core of what we are unpacking today. You were gearing up for the CompTIA SecAI Plus exam. You probably already know Domain 3.
Right, the AI-assisted security domain.
Yep. And it is a massive 24% of your final score. Yep. But we're not here to just, run through a boring list of vocabulary words.
No, definitely not.
We want to look at how AI is fundamentally rewriting the laws of cyber warfare. We're going to explore how defenders are using AI as this massive force multiplier.
Yeah, to enhance detection, automate workflows, and proactively map vulnerabilities before an attack even launches.
And to truly grasp that shift, we really have to look under the hood.
We do. We need to understand the how and the why. Like, how does an AI model actually process all these disparate data formats to spot a zero-day threat?
Right, a threat that's never even been seen in the wild.
Exactly. And how does it tune its own thresholds without, accidentally taking the entire network offline?
And we're going to make sure you can actually apply this stuff, too. Toward the end of our conversation, we're going to put you, the listener, right in the hot seat.
Oh, yeah, the pop quiz.
Yep. We have a gauntlet of 5 SecAI Plus scenarios pulled directly from the source material. And it culminates in a pretty complex performance-based question.
So definitely stick with us, because you are going to need to use these concepts to prove you're ready for the exam.
For sure. So let's jump right into the front lines of defense, which is enhancing detection. Because, well, the first step in any security architecture is actually recognizing that a threat is there at all.
Right. And to understand why AI detection is such a paradigm shift, we really have to just acknowledge the failure of the traditional model.
Yeah, the classic analogy in the source material for rule-based cybersecurity is the bouncer at a nightclub.
I love that analogy.
It works so well, right?
Right.
The traditional security stack acts like a bouncer holding a very strict static VIP list of known bad actors. That's your signature database.
Exactly.
And if an incoming file's hash perfectly matches the signature on that list, the bouncer blocks it. It's a highly efficient, deterministic, binary kind of process.
But the problem, of course, is that when you're dealing with, like, polymorphic 0 days, signature matching is entirely useless.
Right, because it changes.
Yeah, the attacker just changes one single line of code, the file hash changes, and the bouncer just
Lets them walk right through the front door.
Exactly. It's the fundamental flaw of relying on historical data to fight novel attacks. And this is where the AI evolution, specifically deep learning, completely bypasses the need for a list.
Okay, so how does it do that without rules?
Well, in a modern AI-assisted environment, the deep learning model doesn't wait for a human engineer to, like, extract specific features or write rules about what malicious code looks like.
Right.
It actually ingests the raw byte streams from executable files directly into the artificial neural network.
Okay, wait, I want to dig into that mechanism for a second. When you say it ingests the raw byte streams, it's literally just consuming the raw ones and zeros of a file.
Yeah, pretty much. The network streams the raw hex data straight into its input layer. And through multiple hidden layers, the neural network autonomously discovers incredibly complex, non-linear spatial relationships within the data.
So it's not looking at the code the way a human would.
Not at all. It learns the fundamental structural geometry of malicious intent.
That sounds like sci-fi.
I know, right? But it basically means it doesn't care that the specific signature changed. It recognizes that the underlying architecture of the code resembles, say, a ransomware payload.
Which allows it to catch threats that no traditional database has ever even cataloged.
Exactly.
Okay, wait. I have to push back on this, though. If the deep learning model isn't following strict deterministic rules, right? And it's instead just making these probabilistic judgments based on vague spatial relationships, shouldn't the false positive rate be astronomical?
That's a very common concern.
Like, aren't we going to start nuking legitimate software updates or custom internal apps just because their structural geometry looks slightly weird to the AI?
Yeah, that is the assumption many traditional analysts make. But the reality of modern deployments actually proves otherwise.
Really? How so?
Because AI doesn't just guess blindly, it relies heavily on anomaly detection and behavioral baselining within a massive vector space.
Okay, so you mean it translates behaviors into mathematical coordinates.
Precisely. The system establishes a highly complex mathematical baseline of what normal looks like for your specific network.
Got it.
Every user, every device, and every action is mapped as a vector in a high-dimensional space. The AI isn't just looking for isolated bad files.
It's looking at the bigger picture.
Yeah, it calculates the Euclidean distance between events to measure context.
So if a user logs in from their usual IP address in New York,
Right.
and they access a standard marketing database, those data points are clustered closely together in the vector space.
Right, that's their baseline. But if those same credentials suddenly authenticate from Europe at like 3 a.m., and then they attempt an immediate mass download from an encrypted HR server, that behavior maps to a coordinate drastically far away from the user's established baseline.
So the AI flags it as a massive statistical outlier.
Exactly, because it actually understands the context, the mathematical distance between the time, the location, and the action.
Which actively reduces the false positive rate compared to rigid rule sets.
Yeah, significantly.
But even with deep learning, drastically reducing that false positive rate through behavioral baselining, the sheer volume of true positives in a global enterprise is still going to drown a human team.
Oh, for sure.
Like, we haven't solved the human bottleneck yet. How do we take the human out of the triage process entirely, which is, the core of our second domain area, automating security workflows?
Well, alert fatigue remains the most dangerous vulnerability in any security posture. Analysts simply cannot maintain cognitive focus when they're bombarded with tens of thousands of alerts daily.
They just start ignoring dashboards.
Exactly. So the solution AI brings to the table here is cross-source data correlation. We absolutely have to move away from siloed telemetry.
I was actually reading how platforms like Sentinel's Purple AI approach this, and the mechanics of it are fascinating.
Yeah, it's a great example.
But how does the AI actually correlate a cloud identity log with endpoint telemetry? I mean, they're entirely different data formats. They don't speak the same language.
That's where the AI layer comes in. It handles the normalization and embedding.
Okay.
It ingests logs from your cloud workloads, identity providers, network firewalls, endpoint agents, and it standardizes all of them into a unified graph database.
So instead of human analysts having to manually open like 4 different consoles?
Right, just to see if an odd identity login matches a weird firewall blip.
That sounds exhausting.
It is.
Oh, yeah.
But the AI just traverses the edges of this graph. It mathematically links the initial anomalous login, the lateral movement, and the final payload execution on an endpoint.
And it packages all of that as a single correlated attack chain. The administrative side of this is what truly blew my mind in the research. An AI can analyze millions of these events, traverse the graph to connect the dots, filter out the benign noise, and then autonomously generate a completely readable incident report.
Yeah, it does the paperwork.
It drafts the timeline, assesses the blast radius, and writes out the remediation recommendations in literally seconds.
It essentially functions as a highly caffeinated administrative assistant.
Right. Freeing up the senior analyst to actually do high-level threat hunting.
And we can push that automation even further with response orchestration.
Okay, what did that look like?
Well, generating a report is helpful, sure, but stopping the bleeding is critical.
Right.
When the AI platform confirms a correlated threat chain, it can dynamically initiate containment protocols at machine speed.
So it doesn't wait for a human to click a button?
No, it communicates via API to isolate the compromised endpoint from the network, or it dynamically updates firewall rules to sinkhole the malicious traffic.
Wow. Which reduces the mean time to respond the MTTR from hours down to milliseconds.
Literally milliseconds.
Okay, so we've built a system that catches the invisible zero-day threats, and we've automated the triage and response so our human analysts can actually sleep at night.
Always a good thing.
But reacting perfectly is still just reacting. How do we pull this technology upstream? Let's move into our third area, applying AI techniques proactively.
This is where it gets really interesting.
Right. How are defenders using AI to map out the battlefield before the attacker even launches their campaign?
We do that by integrating AI into threat modeling. Historically, threat modeling involved, Senior architects spending weeks in front of whiteboards trying to anticipate every possible attack vector.
That sounds incredibly tedious.
It was. But today, we leverage advanced multimodal large language models.
And using multimodal capabilities means the AI can actually parse and understand visual network architecture diagrams, right? Rather than just text-based configurations.
Yes, exactly. Security teams feed raw system architecture diagrams straight into the model.
Just upload the image.
Yep. The AI processes the visual data flows, understands the component interactions, and immediately cross-references your specific topology against industry frameworks like MITRE Atlas or the OWASP LLM Top 10.
That is incredible.
It maps adversarial tactics against your specific design to identify potential vulnerabilities and suggest mitigating controls before a single line of code is pushed to production.
But what about testing those defenses? I was reading about the use of generative AI defensively.
Yeah.
Specifically, generative adversarial networks, or GANs.
Oh, GANs are fascinating.
It almost sounds like playing chess against yourself to get better. You have a generator building synthetic malware and a discriminator playing defense.
That's a really good way to conceptualize it.
Are they literally just looping this simulation until the defense is unbreakable?
Essentially, yes. It is an accelerated hyperspeed evolutionary arms race running inside a server rack.
Wow.
The generator neural network is constantly mutating its synthetic attacks, trying to find a microscopic flaw in the defense.
And the discriminator?
The discriminator neural network constantly updates its baselines to catch those mutations. Millions of iterations happen continuously.
So over time, your defensive models are rigorously trained against highly sophisticated synthetic attack vectors that have never existed in the real world.
Exactly. You are basically immunizing your network against the future.
That's wild. Yeah. But if GANs are handling the external synthetic threats, how are we proactively profiling the internal environment?
Good question.
I saw isolation forests mentioned prominently in the operations literature for this domain.
Yeah, isolation forests are a fascinating departure from standard machine learning.
How so?
Well, most ML models try to build a comprehensive profile of what normal data looks like, right?
Right.
Isolation forests do the exact opposite. They explicitly try to isolate anomalies.
Oh, interesting.
The algorithm randomly partitions the data points. If a user's behavior is completely normal, it is buried deep inside a dense cluster of typical activities. So it requires dozens of mathematical splits to isolate it.
But if a user is, say, an insider threat acting maliciously,
then their behavior sits far outside that dense cluster.
I see.
The algorithm might only need one or two random splits to completely isolate that data point. The easier behavior is to isolate mathematically, the higher its anomaly score.
It's incredibly efficient for continuously monitoring environments and catching insider threats who already have legitimate access to the network.
Very efficient.
The final piece of proactive operations I want to hit is reinforcement learning.
Okay, yeah.
Is this where we're essentially training the AI intrusion detection system using mathematical rewards and punishments? Like training a dog with treats?
Essentially, yes. Reinforcement learning is all about dynamic optimization based on feedback.
Okay.
Let's say you have an AI dynamically tuning your intrusion detection thresholds. If it successfully blocks a simulated attack without dropping any legitimate network traffic, the system receives a positive scalar reward.
And if the AI gets a little too aggressive and accidentally drops a critical packet containing, I don't know, the CEO's quarterly earnings report?
The system receives a severe mathematical penalty.
Ouch.
Yeah. So over time, the reinforcement learning agent continuously updates its operational policy to maximize its long-term reward.
It learns the precise, razor-thin balance between maintaining maximum security friction for attackers while ensuring zero operational friction for legitimate users.
Exactly. It tunes its own sensitivity in real time, adapting to the network's daily rhythms.
All right, well, let's see if the concepts we have been tearing apart actually stuck. If you're listening, consider this your hot seat.
Time for the pop quiz.
Yep, we are going to gamify the review. I'm going to throw out a few scenarios you are highly likely to face on the SecAI Plus exam, and I want you to figure out the play before we break it down. Ready?
I'm ready. Let's hear them.
Okay, scenario 1. Imagine you wake up, log into your console, and see that an incident summary, complete with a timeline and an automated email update to the stakeholders, was drafted while you were sleeping. What specific capability just saved your morning?
That is the work of an AI personal assistant leveraging automation. It handles the administrative overhead, ensuring the human analyst starts their day with actionable intelligence rather than just, raw log files.
Exactly. Okay, scenario 2. Your gateway intercepts an incoming packet, extracts the file hash, and cross-references it against an updated threat intelligence feed. It finds a match and drops the packet. What traditional task is this?
That would be signature matching.
The bouncer at the club.
Yep, it's the bouncer checking the VIP list. It is highly deterministic and relies on rigid comparisons rather than dynamic analysis.
Got it. Scenario 3. Your system alerts you that a service account, which normally only executes backup scripts at midnight, suddenly initiated a PowerShell command to modify registry keys at noon. What AI capability caught this?
That is anomaly detection based on behavioral baselining.
Because of the distance.
Exactly. The AI flagged the event because the Euclidean distance between the normal vector, the midnight backups, and the new vector, the midday registry edits, was massive.
Perfect. Scenario 4. Your architects are proposing a new cloud-native application. Before approving it, you feed their topological diagrams into a multimodal LLM to map out potential weak spots against the unitary framework. What process are you executing?
That's proactive threat modeling. You are identifying structural vulnerabilities in the design phase long before deployment.
All right, let's level this up to a performance-based question, the dreaded PBQ.
Here we go.
Your CM is screaming. You have 10,000 alerts hitting the dashboard. The SoC is completely paralyzed by alert fatigue. Amidst this noise, an attacker is utilizing an automated botnet to deploy a novel, polymorphic ransomware variant that alters its underlying structure every 5 minutes.
Sounds like a nightmare.
It is. And it's bypassing your gateway firewall. You need to architect a solution. Which two AI-assisted security workflows must you integrate to catch this specific threat and unclog your dashboard?
Okay, to dismantle this attack, you need a two-pronged AI strategy.
Walk us through it.
First, to address the polymorphic ransomware bypassing the gateway, you must implement deep learning for anomaly detection. You have to move away from signature reliance and let the neural network ingest the raw byte streams.
Right, because it changes every 5 minutes.
Exactly. It will autonomously identify the hidden structural geometry of the ransomware regardless of how frequently it mutates its code.
And the second part.
Second, to cure the paralysis caused by the 10,000 alerts, you must implement cross-source data correlation.
Feeding it all into the graph.
Yes, you feed all siloed telemetry into the AI, allowing it to normalize the data, traverse the event graph, and automatically filter out the benign anomalies. It will autonomously prioritize the genuine threat chain, allowing your team to focus solely on the active breach.
Boom. Nailed it. If you navigated those scenarios successfully while listening, you have a solid grasp on the mechanics of Domain 3.
Absolutely.
We've really unpacked how AI serves as a defensive force multiplier. We moved past the static limitations of signature matching and explored the vector spaces of deep learning.
And we looked at how cross-source correlation cures alert fatigue, and how tools like JANs and isolation forests allow us to proactively map our weaknesses.
But as we integrate these autonomous capabilities systems that threat model, isolate endpoints, and dynamically tune their own thresholds in real time, we're steering toward a very specific horizon.
We are, and the source material heavily debates the operational reality of where this leads.
Right.
I mean, we are rapidly approaching an ecosystem where cybersecurity is entirely machine versus machine, operating at speeds completely incomprehensible to human cognition.
A completely autonomous battlefield running inside our networks.
Which leaves us with a profound question regarding accountability.
Oh, for sure. Liability is a massive issue.
Right. As we build platforms that automatically drop traffic, isolate infrastructure, and deploy countermeasures without human oversight, who ultimately bears the responsibility when the machine calculates the vector space incorrectly and takes the wrong network offline?
That is a very complex operational puzzle to leave you with, but an essential one to consider as you step into the next era of network defense.
Definitely something to mull over.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into CompTIA SecAI plus Curse Tree. Keep studying mechanics, keep questioning the architectures you design, and as always, stay curious.